Does anyone else remember newspaper DVDs? These were prominent around in the 2000s, where news companies would give away free DVDs with their papers to promote whatever show was on it. They were much simpler than proper DVDs. They'd come in cardboard slipcases instead of the normal plastic ones. The menus were really basic, and they would only have 2 to 3 episodes on it, or a single film with 0 special features. I got a few of these when I was younger from the Sun newspaper, that were all either Christmas or winter themed. I had ones of Postman Pat, Tweenies, Backyardigans, some old Christmas movie called Robbie the Reindeer that I barely watched, and the thing I'll be reviewing today, a Christmas special of Angelina Ballerina called The Show Must Go On. A brief introduction to what the series is. Angelina Ballerina was a pretty picture book series created by Kathleen Hollowbird and illustrated by Helen Craig in 1983. It's about a ballerina called Angelina, who would have guessed, set in a world of anthro-mice people called Mouselings. The books were adapted into an animated series in 2002. The show was pretty successful at the time and garnered a decent amount of episodes and 3 specials. It was a show I very much enjoyed when I was younger. It would later get a continuation series called The Next Steps in 2009 using 3D animation, which I also liked. I haven't seen either series in ages, so I have no idea if either holds up well. The face models on the 3D show look pretty weird though. Ew! But I'm not interested in talking about the shows. I'll just be focusing on the special. Out of all of the newspaper DVDs I got, this one was definitely my favourite. I have a lot of fun memories with this thing and I'd like to revisit it today to see if it holds. And yes, I'm aware, it's long past Christmas, but it's technically still winter, so I'm counting it. Plus, I really do not want to wait until next December to make this. I don't even like Christmas, I just want to talk about cartoons. No! No! So without further ado, let's get started. The film starts off with Angelina's ballet class going around door to door singing carols to raise money for the upcoming Christmas show. It is established quickly that Angelina does not like singing in public and can't get her notes quite right when she tries.
Maybe you should just pretend to sing.
This is Priscilla, who I guess could be seen as the main antagonist along with her sister Penelope, but she's not some sort of supervillain, more of a class rival. Normally I dislike generic alpha bitches, but for some reason I don't find them too annoying. Mostly because it's important to the plot and they're not just there for the sake of it. That and Joe Wyatt does an amazing job voicing Priscilla.
Oh, you must be so embarrassed by him.
The mega bitch!
Angelina is obviously pressed about this and wants to show Priscilla up at the auditions. They're going to perform a rendition of Cinderella, and Angelina's convinced that she'll get the main role. Yeah, I'm sure that'll go well for her. You can tell that she's starting to get a bit in on her head. Even her friends are hyping her up. It's at the auditions where we are introduced to the best part of this movie.
Mr. Ivor Operatsky!
Lily, you are too kind.
He's so my hero.
This is Mr. Operatsky, and I love him. I found him very funny when I was younger, and I still do today. He's a musical director who's worked with the stars. He's very dramatic, and gets pissed off pretty easily, which makes him very entertaining.
I have no time for mouselings who throw fits of temperament. I hate temperamental behavior. A beetle. Inspirational.
The auditions take place. They're going about as well as you can expect.
This should do it.
Things seem to be going fine, and Angelina's making a good impression with her dancing. Until the singing portion comes up.
Oh.
It doesn't go quite to plan. God, they even gave Priscilla a big-ass tooth to make her look more cutesy, the fucking show off. It's over for Angelina. Priscilla gets to play the Disney princess, while she gets to play a D-list villain. She is gutted.
Oh.
This is where Angelina's entitlement starts. It's pretty minor at first. It's natural that she'd be peed over not getting the role she wanted so badly. But it's the start of something that's not going to go so great for her.
I don't want a sandwich and I don't want to watch Priscilla being the star. Angelina.
She misinterprets a pep talk from her dance teacher, Miss Lily, saying that she'll be a star. It was meant to be encouragement for her to do her best with her current role, but Angelina sees it as a way to prove that she'll make a much better Cinderella mouse than Priscilla.
I wouldn't know how to be wicked if I tried, Miss Lily. I mean, there's not a single wicked bone in my body.
She starts singing softly and angelic instead of a more evil and booming voice during rehearsal, dancing in scenes where she's not supposed to. You can tell that people are starting to pick up on her crap.
Angelina could do with thinking hard about what she's trying to do right now, because she shouldn't be doing it.
Angelina, you are not trying.
I am, Miss Lily.
Wait. I need to take a short break from the plot because the cabbage jelly scene is next.
Quiet, all of you. I cannot work with giggling mouselings, and I cannot work on a stage that is covered in cabbage jelly because little mouselings get in the way!
Bruh.
Simply masterful.
Cabbage jelly!
Okay, back to the story. I have to give some props to Alice here, Angelina's best friend. She's always been good moral support, however, she can tell that Angelina's been acting a bit whack, and isn't afraid to call her out, which I respect a lot.
And if Mr. Operatsky doesn't see what a mistake he's made, then I just hope it snows and everyone gets snowed in and the whole show gets cancelled.
That's a terrible thing to say.
In this scene, Angelina gets really angry and shouts at her little cousin Henry, causing him to cry. That's when Alice has had enough, showing how Angelina's grown attitude is starting to push people away.
Angelina, you really are horrid. Come on, Henry.
But it's my last chance to be the star. I can't throw it away.
It only gets worse, however. Eventually, Miss Lily tells her that she isn't trying and Angelina leaves in a fit.
Without her, yes.
Mr. Operatsky is fine with this as he hates temperamental behaviour.
I hate temperamental behaviour!
It's agreed that Lily will play Angelina's role as the wicked stepmouse and they continue rehearsals as normal. After this, we get to hear a really beautiful song sung by Priscilla.
My world is a world of darkness. I'm all alone. There's no one for company.
Jo Wyatt killing it again with her amazing voice acting. Now I think is a good time to say how gorgeous this show looks, and this movie is no exception. The characters have nice designs, the backgrounds are very painterly and detailed, it looks like it jumped straight out of the books. And the way this song sequence is shot is really pretty as well. They could have just shown Priscilla singing in the theatre, when they go out of their way to wow us with a pretty visual of a cold snowy night as Angelina walks home all upset, with nice purple shadows cast on her. As bad as you may, or may not most likely, feel for her, she did this to herself. And yeah, the song is really on the nose. It's obviously meant to parallel how Angelina is feeling in the scene compared to how Cinderella feels in the play. Like, how much do you have to reiterate how lonely the character is?
Happy ever after. But now I guess that loneliness is how it's going to be.
But I love it anyway. Plus, it's in 3/4, which is always a bonus.
On my own. There's only me.
The animation studio that worked on this show is called Grand Slam Children's Films. They also worked on other British kids classics like Wibbly Pig, Percy the Park Keeper and Kipper the Dog. I had no idea that the same studio that made Angelina also worked on all these other shows until researching for this video. But now I know I can definitely see the resemblance in style. Plus a lot of these are also picture book adaptations. I have no idea if the studio is still active, the website's still up, but they haven't made a show since 2015, which is a shame. Going back to the movie, I think it's time for me to mention something that has been getting more obvious as the film goes on. Angelina is kind of an arse in this film. Yes, Priscilla is passive-aggressive and rude, but she got the role fair and square and there's nothing Angelina can do about it. Now I've seen people mention how she's been acting super unlikable and being too harsh, but that's kind of the point. Yes, she's acting entitled, yes, she's being brash and rude over a Christmas play and a petty rivalry, but she suffers the consequences of her actions, and eventually, as the movie goes along, she learns how bad she's been acting, betters her ways, and plays the role that she's been given properly. Though it took a bit of convincing, but we'll get to that later. And to be fair, she was made fun of when she tried to sing in the beginning, not just by the other kids, but by an adult as well. So her acting like this, while not justified, is still understandable given the context.
I should stick to dancing if I were you, Angelina Mouseling.
I feel like we can all relate to Angelina somewhat. Okay, maybe we didn't act as petty outright, but there are just some of those days where you feel a sense of injustice after you've worked so hard to achieve something and it's just not going quite right. I actually like that Angelina is allowed to act unlikable in this. Think about it. They're making their marketable main character that's meant to be a positive influence on kids act like a total bitch. She's not just the perfect ballet star student, she has flaws, she can act brash and irrational. which is fine since she learns from her mistakes. Imagine if after how she acted, Miss Lily caved in and was like, "Oh, I see we've made a grave mistake, Angelina. You'd make a much better Cinderella than that cunt Priscilla." It would be better falling down a ditch. That would have been a lot worse. I think it's a good lesson for kids. Sometimes you won't always get the stuff that you want, and people who seem undeserving get it. And that's fine as long as you deal with it maturely. At this point in the film, you can tell that Angelina isn't having a good time. She misses the theatre, and you can slowly see signs of her regretting her actions. You know, good stuff and all. Then Angelina breaks Miss Lily's leg!
Sweetest little mouseling in mouse.
Okay, I'm exaggerating a bit. It was a poorly timed accident after a sledging race with Priscilla and Operatsky watching, just after Lily was talking to the latter about how harsh she was being and how Angelina's really sweet when you get to know her. Ugh. She only sprained her ankle, but it was still serious enough for her to be unable to stand on it, meaning that the legend himself has to leave. Oh yeah, and the show's being cancelled too, I guess.
This is all your fault!
I know.
This throws Angelina off the edge. She truly regrets everything she's done. And Alice, being the good friend that she is, comforts her and gives her advice. That's some king shit right there. The comforting must have worked because now Angelina is inspired enough to convince Mr. Operatsky not to cancel the show and stay. And she even reconciles with Miss Lily.
Quiet! I cannot work with giggling mouselings. And I cannot work on a stage that is covered in cabbage jelly.
And you shouldn't have to. You are used to working with the stars. You are a genius.
Bah! Honestly.
God, now that Angelina's been redeemed, she's coddling up to him so bad.
Oh, Mr. Operatsky, what would we do without you?
I don't know, Angelina.
She genuinely knows what she's doing when she puts her mind to it. It's nice seeing her being able to take part without making a scene.
Thank you for coming back, Priscilla.
Well, I wasn't going to let everyone down.
You'll be a wonderful Cinderella mouse.
I like how even though she stopped acting bratty, you can see that she's still a little bit salty towards Priscilla. The shade though.
And she's dreaming of dancing with a handsome prince.
I think this is a good time to talk about a minor side plot this movie has. The relationship between Mr. Operatsky and Little Henry. As you already know, I really enjoy Mr. O's presence in the movie. I love how brash and outlandish he is and all that, but that doesn't mean he can't have development too. There's been a running gag throughout the film where Henry keeps on asking questions about Father Christmas or Santa. That keeps him from concentrating from his performance practice, to the annoyance of Mr. O.
Does Father Christmas ring the doorbell, Miss Lily?
Concentrate, little mouseling. This is never going to work, Lily.
Yes, it will.
What's a sleigh?
It's no good. We try later. Go, little mouseling.
Ivor!
You've stopped.
Miss Lily, Father Christmas won't shout at me, will he?
It was only after he got advice to be more gentle and kinder with his approach that got Henry to finally work well. And I think this applied to his teaching attitude to the rest of the class as well, just in time for the performance.
You know Father Christmas?
Oh, yes, he is a great friend, but he will only let you talk to him if you dance really well.
As much as I find Mr. O's rudeness really entertaining, I like how he got called out for it and became better in his own way.
But he needs to be handled very carefully. He is a difficult man.
Very.
It's finally the night of the show. Everyone's performing well and all the little side plots like Alice's gymnast act and Henry's performance reach its conclusions, paired with this movie's lovely soundtrack.
Oh, Alice, you were so good. But you're being brilliant, Angelina.
Now it's time for the big moment, Angelina's finale song, and she's nervous. I kind of wish we got to see more of the actual show, considering that the movie has been hyping this up since the beginning. We just get to see little snippets of it in the last 8 minutes, but the main plot is about Angelina's arc more than anything, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. Got to keep that precious runtime under 50 minutes. Despite her worries, Angelina pulls through.
Evil has lost.
And goodness has won.
Good is gold. Or shall I just stay wicked? Isn't wicked much more fun?
I love this song. It's on the nose again. They really need to hammer in the fact that the villain is in fact mad, bad and dangerous.
I'm mad, bad and dangerous.
She's mad, bad, and dangerous.
Yes, I'm mad, bad and dangerous.
But I don't care because I find it really fun. Angelina's voice actress, Finty Williams, did a fantastic job here. Angelina is embracing the role that she resented for most of the story, and uses her experience to help amp up her performance. I love how everyone else joins in to sing too.
She does it with flair, she does it with style. It takes a lot of practice to get to be so vile. She's taken wickedness as far as wickedness can go. She's mad, bad, and dangerous. So now, go!
And the crowd goes wild. The show was a huge success and everyone is happy yet relieved with how it went.
Thank you, Angelina. You know, I could not have done it without you.
Ah, he's gone so far. Oh yeah, the Queen was there as well, I guess.
Say cheese, please.
Cheese!
Say Cheese sings a fucking ballad. I love him. And even the Henry side plot gets a complete conclusion. Mr. Operatsky was acting so pressed and, dare I say, temperamental towards Henry before, but even he has been humbled.
He is such a kind man, Lily.
Yes, Serafina. You know, I think he is.
And that's the end of the movie. What else can I say but...
Very nice. Yes, good.
In the end, I thought it was a surprisingly solid special. It wrapped up all the plots, even the super minor ones, nicely. It has good voice acting, art and music. I like how it wasn't afraid to make the main character unlikable for the sake of teaching a moral. And of course, Mr. Operatsky is king.
Oh.
It's also really funny as well, but a lot of that humour was probably unintentional. I don't know, I just find a grown rat man yelling at children funny.
Quiet!
Do I recommend it? Yes, if you want something simple and sweet to watch on a cold morning, it's a nice watch. But do keep in mind that some of my enjoyment does come from nostalgia a bit, so it might not be as special as I make it out to be, but I still think it's worthwhile. You might get something out of it. Thank you for watching.
Oh, shit! A rat!